Okay, now we'll start. Okay. So today's shir is going to be related to Sefer Shoftim and to Megillat Esther and somehow to Beit HaMishpat, maybe. I don't know. In Sefer, what I want to begin with is a tool that the books of Tanakh use to deliver a message. Now, you're in the end of Sefer Shoftim now, right? You're about to do Pesach Micha?
Yes.
And you're about to do the also Pilegesh B'Giva. Everyone knows the Pilegesh B'Giva story. Now, tell me what story in Chumash is similar to Pilegesh B'Giva?
Stone.
That's obvious, isn't it? In the story of Stone and Amorah, there's so many similarities. It's almost plagiarizing, isn't it? It's like it can't be that just by chance the people in Stone are saying the exact same things that people in a couple hundred years later are saying in Beit El. In other words, the prophetic author, who wrote that? Shmuel, right? It seems to be intentionally writing a dialogue that's happening in what city was that in? In Givan, that's right. In Givan Binyamin, it's intentionally using wording from the story of Stone. And what's his assumption? That the reader of his book, not the reader of Sefer Shoftim, is totally aware of Sefer Breshit. Agreed? It's using words like, using the same wording. I just bring a couple of examples. You guys bring me some examples. Can you say that anymore? No, you say you guys. I can say that. People. I'm used to teaching 18-year-old boys, so. Open up Sefer Shoftim. Again, you haven't done it yet. I just want to bring, anyone just look and try to bring an example of where there's a quote, which is almost like a smoking gun to show that that Shmuel, writing the story, wants the reader to think of what's going on in Perek Yud Chet, in Breshit, with the story of Stone. Give me some examples. We're in Perek Yud Tet, right? Perek Yud Tet is the Pilegesh B'Giva story. Give me some examples. Who can beat me? Here. How about Pasuk Yud Zayin? Okay. Pasuk Vav. Okay. Vayisa ina vayar. I mean, that's right out of Breshit, isn't it? Okay. Et eish horech birchol ha'ir. Where's that coming from? Ki birchol nalin, by Stone. Okay. So they say what do you call it? We're here. The best line is the next one. It's not related, but it's awesome. Pasuk said, "V'yomrei lav obrim anachnu mi Beit Lechem Yehuda." No, it's me, my Pilegesh. Where are we going? Well, we're traveling from Beit Lechem. Where are we going to? Remember, he just went to bring back his Pilegesh. We're cheating on him after like a 5-star hotel breakfast every morning and staying another day and another day. Right? We're going back to Arkei Ephraim. Misham anochi. Ve'elech a Beit Lechem Yehuda ve'Beit Hashem ani holech. Where am I going? We're traveling to God's house. Big talker, right? Like he wants to get a little sympathy. I'm going to the Beit HaMikdash in Shiloh at the time. Okay. Ve'ish masefo te'abayta. That's classic right out of the Stone, isn't it? Okay. And then he goes on. Now keep on going there. If I meet the next one. Here. In Pasuk Chav, Vayiviu lebeito v'yavo l'chamorim v'chatzu ragleihem v'yachlu v'yishtu. V'yachlu v'yishtu has double connotations. V'yachlu v'yishtu. Remember? By the Yovix and Mishteh, but V'yachlu v'yishtu you have at Har Sinai, don't you? And at there you go. Remember that? Those
The
words.
big one is Hotzei.
Yeah, that's coming up. That. Here, no, Pasach Chabet. Heima mitivim libam, which is a great line all the way through the story. Mitivim libam, it's a 4-course dessert. No, okay, done. Vinei anshe hayir anshe b'nei b'liah. I'm bringing anshe hayir and system. Nasab alabai, word for word. Mitapkim aladelet. Ve'amru haish ba'alazar lemor. Hotzei et ish ba'alazar b'nei da'ino. That's a giveaway.
Wow.
We take him out and we want to know him, and they might say them. Remember, it's and you can do a mashup. You can see what's going on. Again, that's our topic today. Vayomer alem achai al tareu, word for word. Okay. Okay, and they say, "You need me to take my daughter." Instead, take my 2 daughters. Take my Pilegesh and his wife, and his daughter. Okay. He said, "Take my daughter and his Pilegesh. Take them and do whatever you want to them, but don't do anything." It's word for word, isn't it? Now, what am I getting at? Shmuel, the Navi, wants the reader of Sefer Shoftim to compare our story to Stone. Now, why is he doing that?
To show how terrible the times are,
Okay.
and that the Jews have reached such.
Now, if we're like Stom, Kistominu Kamar Diminu, it's Yishayahu later on. Okay? Shmuel's not the first prophet. I mean, he's the first one, but later on, many prophets follow in his footsteps, which makes sense, like Yishayahu and Yirmiyahu and Yechezkel. They take imagery from Stom and use it as if you want to say how bad things are. You know what? I'll give you the best example. If you want to show that Jerusalem is deserving of destruction, then you say that you're worse than Stom. Who says that word for word? And remember? Just for the fun of it. I guess you'll remember. Yechezkel Tet Zayin. Take a look in Yechezkel Tet Zayin, Pasuk Mem Chet Mem Tet. Yechezkel Tet Zayin. See if it's still there. Yechezkel Yutet Zayin, chapter 16 in Yechezkel. Tet Zayin, we read that parak in our Haggadah a little bit, in the things that our kids should be reading. Yechezkel Tet Zayin is when we compare Jerusalem, the sins of Jerusalem, like a unfaithful wife and a harlot. In Yechezkel Tet Zayin, I'm something. But the camera?
No,
Oh,
you shake this.
Oh, I'm shaking. Okay, good.
So either we can move
No, I'm
this.
good. I'm good. This is good. I like meeting on my back. Tet Zayin. I just show you for the fun of it. The Pasuk Chet is right out of the Haggadah. I mean, we quote Pasuk Zayin and Chet, don't we? Tet Zayin in Haggadah. Remember that Pasuk? And the next one also.
Yeah.
You have to read the rest. And Pasuk, skip the Pasuk Memchet. I'm saying it's the parak is famous. Parak Mem Pasuk Memchet in the parak. Chai ani num Hashem. Imastas tomachotech hi uvnoter kasher asit atu uvnoter. Jerusalem. Remember the opening line of the chapter is Ken ben Adam hodet Yushem et avotem. Tell Jerusalem how bad its behavior is, how sickening your behavior is. He says, Stom, your sister, your neighbor, right? They were worse. You're worse than they were. Okay. And in case you forgot what was so bad about Stom, Stom achotech, don't sibat lechem b'Shabbat hashkef vayelav b'meter yad ani b'adim lo ixika. But the benefit the center of elephant about certain kasherity. Stom was sinning with milk. They were wealthy and prosperous, but didn't take care of the poor. They basically no chesed at all. Mishpat without tzedakah, and that's why God got rid of them. And therefore, in Jerusalem, that's why God is destroying the first temple. Now, so that was my word of introduction. That what Nevi'im do when they write their works of prophecy, they're assuming that the readership is aware of earlier works of prophecy. Got it? And one of the tools you have to give the message is using wording so that the reader of that book smiles or gets the message. Now, instead of giving the message directly, right, like here, like in the introduction to Pilegish V'Yiva, the Navi didn't say, before you read this chapter, review Bereshit chapter 18, right? They don't do that. Okay. That was what's the author want? What's the Navi want the reader to do? To figure out on its own. And when you give hints, you brought up children, most of you, I'm assuming. The best way to give musar is indirect, isn't it? You learn from a story, learn from someone else, or let the kids figure it out on their own. Or instead of saying something directly, when you discover the message on your own, it's much deeper. That's what Chumash says over and over again, like at Har Sinai. It's it's called obfuscation, the fancy word in English. It's when you want someone to discover something, you leave breadcrumbs, but the goal is the discovery of what you're looking for is much stronger when the reader discovers that on its own. I'm not saying a good, bad, I'm not judging whether it's a good or bad technique. I'm saying that for sure is what Nevi'im do. And that's why they always bring up that imagery of stone, assuming that the readers know other things of Chumash. You have it all through Chumash, don't you? Where later Nevi'im use stories from Chumash, imagery from Chumash to give a message. Now, in Sefer Shoftim, the whole theme at the end of the book, I'm sure you've started, is there's no king. And if Am Yisrael's behavior in Giva is like rock bottom, we need political reform. What that's that's what the book is screaming, isn't it? Okay, there's no melech. We need, but not a melech all powerful. We need melech with checks and balances, as we'll see later on. I don't want you to get the wrong message. Now you need mimshal with mishpat and stakah. Remember. Now back to in other words, you need malchut which is open and to listening to Bikoret Shiput or Nevuit. You can argue who should be giving the Bikoret, but that a government should be beyond, should make decisions and their decisions count, and there should be no what's called Bikoret or Sfirut at that. Chumash is screaming the opposite. Again, you can say Arbeit Mishpat is corrupt or something like that, but the idea that you have a wing of government that's all powerful and makes decisions and is not under the scrutiny of another Navi or Sanhedrin or something, that for sure is not Chumash. That shouldn't be a question. But if you can argue who should be the one giving Musar, and who should be that's a good argument. But the idea that all the power should be under one samchut, that's a disaster. Now, at least maybe it's not disaster, but it's a disaster, at least Tanakh wise. Now, let's get to Megillat Esther. What I want to assume now in my class, we can't cover the whole Megillah today. So one topic, and this is the background for it, is that I want to make a bold assumption that the author, we don't know who wrote Megillat Esther, Chazal attributed to Anshe Knesset Agdolah. Now I know there's a beautiful midrash when she writes the Igeret, that's Igeret Hazot, is referring to the laws of Purim in Pshat, not to Megillat Esther, because we got Esther from the opening line, seems to be written a generation later. When I have to identify which Achashverosh this is, the last of that one. The opening line gives you the assumption that it's being written in hindsight a little bit of the events. How much later you can argue, but whoever wrote Megillat Esther, it's someone. It's not prophecy because it's in Ketuvim, but it's Ruach HaKodesh. So it's written to give a religious message. I want to prove to you that the reader is assuming. I mean, the author is assuming his audience knows the book of Zechariah. Okay. Now, nowadays that's really rough because we have a minhag not to learn. I thought our yeshiva is a nonprofit. we don't learn. We have to not to learn Nevi'im. So it's a little too harsh what they say. What? That's definitely not Nevi'im Bachron again. Yeah, I mean maybe in Dati Lomi learns the Sefer Yeshua maybe they're into that.
They should learn Chagai.
They should, yeah, or that they'll learn selectively. No, but without Zechariah. Okay, so I want to show you there's certain lines in Zechariah which I think shed light on what's happening in Megillat Esther. Again, I'm not going to, the story of Megillat Esther is one of the best known stories. I want to go to the story after the Hamans are over. You know what I mean? After Hamans are over, no one's paying attention. As a little kid. Now, what are the laws of Purim? Remember, Mordechai has to send out a letter to celebrate Purim, and the proof that it didn't catch on is because they say everyone's doing it, right? Remember, how do you say? How do you try to convince people to do something? Say everyone else is doing it. Remember, Kimo v'kibla Yehudim. When you have to say Kimo v'kiblu, I'm saying Pshat, not in Drush. Everyone's at the demonstration. It's everyone. So when you say everyone's keeping it, if everyone's keeping it, why send out a second letter? Remember to send a second letter to make sure they keep the first letter. But what was the first letter? Anyone remember? What is the law? God saved us in this great event. Mordechai and Esther want everyone to remember this event, and you need to do something, right? Now you're going to do it on the anniversary, right? And we have 2-day celebration. But for example, how do we remember the day we left Egypt and how God took us out of Egypt? What do? We eat matzah, right? Why? Because eating matzah relates to the story. Agreed? No, but I'm going to do something that relates to the story. So if they made a law that, what do you call it? To make baked goods looking like Haman's hat. You know that song or not? No, Haman's hat was just like that. Anyone learn that story growing up? No?
Yeah.
Someone knows it. How's it go? I read. Nash Hamantash, yeah. I forgot all the words, but I remember Haman. I just remember Haman's hat was just like that. That's Nash Hamantash now. Now, what's behind that song? If you're going to make a minhag to celebrate the holiday, it has to relate to the holiday, like eating matzah, or say you're going to sukkah kind of idea. Now, what are the laws of Purim?
Reading them.
You made me simcha. Okay.
Reading them.
That doesn't say that. No, that's our minhag. That makes sense. But Mordechai doesn't write that because when he established the minhag. There was no Megillah yet. Mishra Ishtoreu. There's three things, right? You make mishteh v'simcha, making a holiday, it's as opposed to a fast. No, it's from miyagon l'simcha, menafochu miyagon l'simcha betel v'yom tov. I'm turning a sad day into a holiday, right? I'm sending matot levyonim, okay, which you can do every day of the year, which is a nice thing, and mishloach manot ish l're'ehu. That remember ish l're'ehu? Any other holiday have that? None, right? No. Matot levyonim makes what? There's no other mitzvah. There's matanot le'nachonlo, like in the Nehemiah you find. You have giving. It always makes sense. Being Jewish, always helping someone. Like before Yom Tov, you give out meals, you give out help to people who don't have. But, yeah. Kim Chedapin for what?
Shani thought of one.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Sukkot, right? Yeah, Sukkot. They had to give one
In Nehemiah.
yeah.
No, it doesn't say matanot ishtoreu. Matanot le'nachonlo. People always bring that thing. I disagree. It's different. Everyone brings that. They want to say it's like how do you make a Yom Tov? By exchanging gifts, with friends. That might be a modern day kind of thing. But in Nehemiah, it doesn't say giving. It's matonot but la'in nachonot for those who don't have, which is like that's of your name, which is part of being Jewish. I'll give you a great example. I think it's mitzvah on Shabbos also, isn't it? On Shabbos to take care, to make sure everyone has a meal for Shabbos. Anyone ever learned the first Mishnah in Masechet Shabbat? Remember Masechet Shabbat? It's a long one. The first Mishnah is about caring, about moving from one reshut to another reshut. That's what it gets like that. Now, and what's the example? This guy puts his hand out, puts his hand in. But what's the topic? It's an ani standing outside the house and the balabait inside the house. And the balabait is giving food to the ani outside the house. So the question is, does he take it from his house and put it in his hand there? Or does he take it from his house and the ani takes it from out? You follow? It's called hanocha, akira and hanocha, without getting to the hours. That the rabbis just go. But what model is the Mishnah using to teach the laws of Shabbos? The most practical, realistic thing we do on Shabbos is what? We eat. We provide food. We provide food for those who don't have. I just think it's awesome the way these little things the Mishnah does all the time are so awesome. Like the first Mishnah Psachim, remember? We use like about B'dikas Chametz, right? So we say, or we use the word light, right, to describe darkness. That's so awesome. This, if it's a halachic book, just say 18 minutes after Shkia, like this. It should read like Shulchan Aruch, right? When you do B'dikas Chametz, we have to wait till it gets dark, whatever it is. Just say it, right? Why make it so confusing? Why use the word or when you really mean darkness, right? But the idea of light in the time of darkness, it's like, I'm just saying, Toshma is so awesome. But I'm getting if you don't know where it's coming from, you appreciate the sources in Chumash. It's just you don't appreciate how deep Chazal are. Now back to our topic. So take a look. Open up Megillah Esther finally. Take a look in Perek. I think it's the end of the Megillah. It should be Perek Chet. Perek Chet already. Perek Chet Pasach Chaf Aleph. I think it's in the back of the book. Megillah Esther.
It also doesn't mention
For sure, Tati Esther is modern.
really.
Only 1,000 years old. It's like in Jewish history. In Beit Sheni, it was a holiday. It was Yom Nikanor, I think. It was in Megillat Tanit. It's one of the days that they celebrated. It was I'm pretty sure it was linked to when people started getting drunk on Purim. When things got out of hand. It was also I think it was I'm pretty sure from around Crusader time it started. The Gonim don't mention it's not in the Mishnah, it's not in the Gemara, it's not in the Gonim. It starts in the early Rishonim. We find it happening. Ask your local rabbi. Ask your local rabbi. Don't know, but it's definitely a modern. That's why there's if you're looking for a head to Tani Sester, that's the easiest one to find. Yeah, my father was a shul rabbi, but that was easy. If you once had a baby.
She once fainted.
What? Yeah. And then fasting through Megillah reading, that's torture. That's like,
Yeah.
you can eat before Megillah. I mean, don't quote me. Yeah. No, ask your local rabbi, but What are we doing? Megillat Esther, okay? Look in Perek Chet. Have Rashi read it. Perek Chet Pasach Chaf Aleph. Start from Pasach Chaf.
It's tet, there's tet.
Perek Chet Pasach Chaf.
Tov Mordechai et Baron Hayla Vayishvat Shalom Kol Hayudim Asher B'Chol Medinot Hamelach Achashverosh B'Chol Medinot Hamelach Achashverosh Hashem V'Her Chokim V'Kayim Alehem V'Yil Tosim Et Yom Arba Asar L'Chodesh Adar Et Yom Chamisha Asar Bo B'Chol Shana V'Shana Kayamim Asher Nachu Bahem HaYehudim Me'Ayveihem Achachodesh Asher Nehapach Lahem Yadon L'Samcha Moed Yom Tov L'Asot Otam
Okay, that's it. That's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is it? Mishlachot ish l'rehu, matar l'yonim, v'kibel hayudim, yeah. And then we have to send another letter.
Right.
Which we'll get to in a minute. Now, the question is going to be why those customs? Got it? What do they have to do with Purim? They're nice ideas. So you can say you need to make a holiday, and we're defining what holidays are. What are holidays? You may mishteh b'simcha, okay? And mishlach manas, giving gifts to people. But now, again, if it was only matot v'avonim, that's fine. But ish l'rehu, that's a strange term we never had before. Yeah.
I think it's for unity, because the Jewish people had been dispersed, that says in all places and so on, and that's what brought on the.
Yeah.
the
Okay. Yeah. But listen,
decree.
I agree. That's a nice idea. But is there anything in Megillat Esther you're saying is in Megillat Esther would say this was unity?
Was doing it to make sure people would stay united every year, at least.
At least one day a year. Yeah. Okay. That could be.
Especially since it's a Golos,
Yeah.
and Golos is so far widespread.
We have to stay together in Golos. Yeah. And that's the question. I was talking about. Is it really a Golos book? And no, that's the question. Is that a Golos book or not?
Totally.
Yeah. So why you say it's a Golos book?
Because it's basically the Jews have the opportunity to go back to Israel at that time to buy Shani, and they're sticking around and they're hanging out in the diaspora, and they're completely assimilating.
And so that makes it a Golos book
It's a assimilation.
or an anti-Golos book.
It's an anti.
Oh, that's something else already. Yeah. Now, example, if you let's say you made Aliyah, you guys we did the right thing, right? And you have friends who didn't see the light, okay? And you want to sort of make them feel bad, or feel good about yourself, or make them feel bad. Depends how you look at it. And so you don't tell them. How do you give a message to them that you should have made Aliyah kind of thing, or you don't just say it straight out, do you? You give little what? Yes, I would say that. Yeah.
We'll go away to Costa Rica for Pesach.
Yeah.
Isn't it say next year in Jerusalem? I mean.
No, otherwise you can't make Pesach in Yerushalayim because then you can't say next year in Jerusalem. So so they shouldn't say they shouldn't lie if they're Seder. They go to Chutzpah. They're extra makbid because you understand. So to make sure that they can stay at Shem Vayushem, that's why they get after the Chutzpah. That's a Sunday Passover.
They come back next year again. So now you're so last year you
Yeah.
said, so now you're hearing the same for next year again.
Okay. Anyway, that's a whole long perspective. Yeah. Now, what I'm getting at is that if that's where in Megillat Esther does it say? Is there a hint that the Jews should have returned? You got it. Now, you mentioned coming back to build a second temple. I'm not going to get into the historical topic of whether the temple was built yet or not. That's already that's too long a topic and it's too complicated. But according to everybody, it's after the Cyrus Declaration. It's after Korah, which means it was after the opportunity to return. But was it during the building freeze or after it's already built? So if I follow what's called like the classic historical in the academic world, then it's happening like 10, 20 years after the second temple was built already. And if you follow the Midrashic interpretation, which is for coming from a different angle, then it's right before the temple was built. But it's still in the time period when we could have rebuilt the temple. And it was really cute. My grandchildren were for Shabbat, and we were in vendors like in 7 or 8, 9, no, maybe 10. I guess she's 10. She was reading Bini Parshat Truma, and she said, "It sounds just like Megillat Esther." When it describes the Ketzah, the Chesed, all the things. He says no.
Bingo.
So it's the opposite, right? No, and she realized already. She knows Megillat Esther. She never read Parshat Truma before. It says Parshat Truma sounds like Megillat Esther.
It's in your family's-
Okay. No, but that's showing you that the author Megillat Esther was using words to bring up temple imagery. Give me some more examples of temple imagery. Remember, Bekelim Shonim, Hu Targum of Chelet, Kelim Shonim, yeah, going in, going Chetzer Melech HaPnimi, you'll die if you don't give permission. There's tons of imagery there for sure. Now, the question is that just cute, or is that alluding to the main theme of the book? Now, if you're obfuscating the message, then you can never spill the beans. That's the whole. I don't use the word satire because satire has the wrong connotation sometimes. But if you want to give a message, if you're obfuscating a message, you can never spill the beans. Got it? You have to, but you have to leave a lot of breadcrumbs so the reader finds it.
But a person can also argue, but look, God saved us, so it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. So the question, why does God save us? Now, does God ever talk about that we should be destroyed? Really, we deserve being destroyed, but He'll end up saving us anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that in Chumash? And Parshat Tazino.
What happens in Shoftim all the time?
That's right. Yeah, and we're seeing Tilamayim Chet as well. Now, in Shurat Tazino, it gives the reason. Want to take a quick look where it says in Shurat Tazino? Yeah. Open up Shurat Tazino. That's already in Dvarim that we're more familiar with. Okay. I'll read just the end of it, then to understand the beginning. Shurat Tazino. Look in Perek Lamed Bet in Dvarim. Pasuk here. Pasuk Chavav. See in Pasuk Chavav, in Perek Lamed Bet in Dvarim, Pasuk Chavav, 32:26. Okay. Amarti Af'ehem, all the Parshim saying, God said to himself, I'm going to, I'll get my anger off, like Charon off. Okay. Ashvito me'anos lichram. I'm going to wipe out their memory from mankind. Okay. Lulei kas oyev, but it wasn't for the, what do you call it? For the enemies who are going to say what? With the pen yomru yedenu rama v'lo Hashem pal kazot. It'll be a chilo Hashem if God's people were destroyed, so God have to come and save us, or it's like a safety net. Okay, and then what?
Yeah.
That's
We had Moshe, and we had this conversation.
Yeah, that's what Moshe.
Hashem knew it because Moshe told.
Yeah, Moshe's strategy from the beginning. Okay? In Pasuk Lamed Ki Adin Hashem Amal V'David Nacham Ki Rakos Latiyat Efeser V'Azul. He'll save us at the end. We might deserve to be destroyed, but He'll save us for what reason?
For his own name.
Yeah, but for the end, what's he saying that? He says, what do you call it? Pasuk Lametet, Ru, understand, Ki ata ani anihu, vein elim imadi. Ani mitvechia, machasti ben yarpeh, ben medi myself. Realize in this that I'm the one who saved you, right? Don't take yourself. Look, you almost were destroyed. You deserve to be destroyed, and God saved you. And don't just say thank you, but act thank you. And therefore, make sure it won't happen again. Now, Shurat Tazino begins actually in Devarim Perek Lamed Aleph when God tells the people what will happen. He'll say, God gives Moshe this pretty much pessimistic prediction what's going to be. Remember, God basically tells Moshe's giving up leadership to Yoshua. God said, Moshe Rabbeinu, don't feel so bad. You did a lousy job and your generation failed. Don't take it so bad. It's going to get worse. These guys saying, don't blame you. You're about to die. Don't take it to heart. No one could have done a better job. They were bound to fail, basically, and it's going to happen again. And that's the way people are. It's sort of, I think there's something there in God telling this to Moshe privately before He commands Yoshua. Now, remember when you want to console somebody, say, I happen to be also, you think it makes them feel better. Now, so what's he said? He says, in Pasuk Ketzayin, in Perek Lamed Aleph, V'yomer Hashem el Moshe, hincha shochev imavetecha, v'kam hamazeh, you're going to die. This nation is going to come and follow other gods, which is exactly Sefer Shoftim. Ashuva b'shama b'po, abikabo, v'azavar eter briti ashukratito. They're going to break my covenant. Means they're going to follow other gods, they'll be unjust, they won't build a society representing God. V'charapi bo b'yomahu, Hashem. No, it's my anger will be against them on that day. V'zaftim, okay, Visarti b'nai mehem, means hastar panim all through Tanakh means God's not going to answer our prayers. Means we're going to be God's going to have to punish us. He'll bring an enemy, okay? And we're going to pray to God save us from the enemy without doing proper tshuva, got it? And God's going to say no. Esther panim mitachas, God always sees. He doesn't answer your prayer. And what do people say? The people will say what? Who's to blame for this fiasco? God. Why? We prayed, he didn't answer. And then they're going to turn to other gods. You follow? Our God doesn't help us. We're going to turn to other gods. Now, what happens all through Tanakh is God punishes us because our society is unjust. So we're doing a bad job of serving God. And then as a wake-up call, all through Tanakh this happens. Yirmiyahu says it, Yishayahu says it, Shlomo says it in his tefillah when he built the Beit HaMikdash, and Chumash says it. Remember? And all through Chumash. If you don't keep the mitzvot of becoming a nation, sanctifying God in your day-to-day life, I'll have to send an enemy to punish you as a wake-up call. You should understand the wake-up call and pray to remember you have to fix your ways. You say before you ask for redemption, first you need to pray for chonein dat, to know what's right and wrong, and then to want to do tshuva, and then for redemption, and then for forgiveness, and then I can remember the first three brachot of Shemoneh Esrei. That's the process of tshuva. But if you don't know what you did wrong, you can't do tshuva. But if you only pray to God, save me from my enemy, without any introspection and fixing your ways, then God becomes his vending machine. And God says, therefore, I can't answer your prayers because you didn't get the message. Now, when people pray to God and God doesn't answer, they get angry. What kind of God is this? And then they turn to other gods. And then God gets even more angry. You follow?
Yeah.
And it becomes a vicious cycle. And that's what Shirat Hazinu is for, to tell you who to blame when things go wrong. Remember? Shichet lo banabumam. The whole Shira is telling you when Jewish history goes bad, don't blame anti-Semitism and don't blame the goyim, blame yourselves. Right? You're to blame. Fix now. It's not you didn't daven hard. You have to fix your society and act in a way that sanctifies God. What you're doing wrong, ask your local rep, or ask yourself, or it's usually when someone else is doing wrong. It's not I'm doing wrong. It's always somebody else. Now look at the next line. What's God say next? Right? What do I have to do? I'm not going to answer those prayers because they turned to other gods. To me, rabbis asked the question: Esther Menator Minayim. Right? Where's Esther? Why is her name Esther? There's got to be some source, and they call it this pasuk. That's wordplay. That's because her name, I think, was really Hadassah. I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
There was some academic research that found her name was Hadassah. Or it says so, that's right. That's in the text. Yeah? But for some reason, we changed her name to Esther.
And she was assimilated.
Okay, it could be, but what Chazal say, the author, we get this there, wants you to connect this to Shirat Hazinu, which means look for the hand of God in history. And when things go wrong, you've done something wrong. And if God saves you, it's because it's a safety net.
And that's why God's name is not unlimited.
Yeah. Now, because what? Just like we're hiding, the message of being a Gola, we're also hiding God's name. Because how do you see the hand of God in history? You can never see God, you can only perceive God. Ever since Har Sinai, that was Nigla. But that's over. Now we're living in Esther, ask your local chassid. But Har Sinai is Nigla because you can't miss God. Afterwards, God's Nistar in the Mishkan. That's the famous Ramban at the beginning of the Mishkan. That's like the Ramban in the beginning of Parshat Truma. That was this week. It's like he explains the basics of Kabbalah, of Nigla and Nistar, without saying it, but he's saying it. He says the purpose of the Mishkan is the Kvod Hashem that was Nigla and Har Sinai is Nistar in the Mishkan. And when you visit the Mishkan, you're going to remember the Har Sinai experience. But if you don't look for it, you won't find it. And your experience in the Mikdash has to remind you of how do you see God in your day-to-day life? You don't see him, you can only perceive him. You have to train yourself to see God in your day-to-day life. Now,
was there a cloud over the Mishkan?
What?
Wasn't there a cloud over the Mishkan so you could see?
You can see a cloud.
Well, you knew there was a presence.
Okay, but it takes a little education to figure out that that's the cloud. I was in. Anyone ever been to South Africa?
Yeah.
You know that. In Cape Town, Table Mountain.
Yeah, that's a cloud over it.
All right. I
Tablecloth.
learned so much.
It's called the tablecloth. It's called the tablecloth. They call it the
Tablecloth over the cloud.
What is
Right? It's amazing, but it explains Chumash. It explains why. It's the answer to your question. There's a phenomena in nature. You can give some scientific explanation for it, but for the average person who doesn't know all the climate stuff, I just see there's that mountain, and all the time there's a mountain, there's a cloud over the mountain all the time, right?
Not all the time.
No, most of the
Sometimes
time,
it
most of the time, yeah. Sometimes Hashem's so angry when they're mistreating the blacks. Okay, no, I'm just quoting what's his name. Who was that guy?
Should be here, not in
Okay, yeah. Or he's angry for the Jews not making Aliyah. That's it. Now,
But
when
the
it came
cloud
back.
lifted when they were supposed to travel.
Travel, yeah.
So,
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I'm saying that's the desert, but in the land of Israel, it's different.
Yeah.
Land of Israel, there's no more manna. The manna also is a sign from God, but if it falls every day, it's like nature. A miracle that happens every day is called nature. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm getting at, you can perceive God, but you don't see God. So what I'm getting at is that in Megillat Esther, something's hiding. That's all. And the fact that the character is called hiding, I think it's the title of my source sheet, isn't it? What's hiding?
What is
What is
that?
that?
What's Esther hiding? Not Esther. That's supposed to be a wordplay. Not Esther, Megillat Esther. But it's, what's hiding in Megillat Esther? That used to be the title, but this title is cuter, right? What's Esther hiding? Because it sounds like Esther the person, not Esther the Megillah, right? Yeah. Got that title now? You only send the title after this year. No, I had to get it away in the middle. But there's something hiding in the name Esther. Right? And Chazal were right on the mark, but Chazal never spilled the beans either. They just give you all these illusions. Yeah. Which starts with Kelim Kelim Shonim and all the Mikdash imagery. Now, that takes me now to the Minhag Purim, okay? That's why Maton Ishreu, Maton Devunim. Why that? What's this Ishreu doing here? And why Mishter Yom Mishter B'Simcha as opposed to the day that we fasted? So if I go back to the time period of Second Temple, which is the time period, what was the last Nevuah that has a date stamp on it in Tanakh? We're not sure, maybe Malachi, that's one, but I want the last Nevuah that has a date stamp. It's in the Nevi'im, right? So remember, Chaggai's Chai Malachi are the last three. We don't have a date stamp on Malachi. It makes sense, he's Ezra that time period, but there's no date stamp and no predictions, but there's nothing that's specific other than keeping Torah and God finally, what? Yeah, but the last time we have a dated Nevuah is Chaya Perek Zayin. Okay, open up Chaya Perek Zayin, and I want to show you Megillat Esther and Chaya Perek Zayin. And give me a copy of the source sheet. There's an extra one somewhere. Here we go. Right here. Okay, Chaya Perek Zayin. Oh, just over. Actually, we'll take this before we get there. Just a quick source sheet, because these are all sources you've seen before. I'm sure you've seen them on the first page. Hatzrat Koresh. Remember, Koresh is everyone knows Koresh's declaration, right? And the Jews had the ability to go. My favorite pasuk was pasuk Gimel, where after he gives his declaration, he says, "Whoever wants to go, go." And pasuk Gal is my favorite. So anyone left behind should send presents and send their money and something. And then pasuk Zayin we need for our share. But Melech Koresh would see Klei Beit Hashem. Asher Otzim Nebuchadnezzar Yerushalayim V'Yitnem B'Beit Elohav V'Yotzim Koresh Melech Horas Al Yad B'Tutat HaGizbar V'Yisperem L'Shes Batzar and Nasiv Yehuda. In other words, Nebuchadnezzar pillaged the temple, brought the kelim from the temple to his archive, saved it to sell it in some auction. In come on, he's going to sell in some auction, make some money. I'm just joking. You know that they just sold that Chumash. Yeah.
Did you hear how much? I didn't hear.
I'm not sure if they sold it yet. Someone bought it. I think we bought it. Whatever it is. Yeah. I think the government is the government. I think is gonna. We wanted to. I think we should. And then we can rip different pieces and sell the pieces for amulets.
Right.
That's what happened with the Electoral Codex. Yeah, maybe. I'm sorry. But what's interesting is according to Tanakh, this is Koresh is according to everyone before Megillat Esther. The kelim of the Beit HaMikdash are back in Yerushalayim. Got it? So it's Shesh Batzar. Koresh took the kelim from Nebuchadnezzar's palace, and as a jest of goodwill, gave it to the Jews to bring back and use in their temple. What?
All of them?
It says so. That's the only time. So
Nothing else?
no. In Pshat, he gave all of them. Why not? What's he saving them for? Maybe he needs that extra. Maybe he needs Pesach dishes or something. Now, what Chazal say is "Bekelim shonim," is an allusion to the kelim of the Mikdash. Now, what are they saying? Why? They ask the question: why are we punished? So we say why? Because we went to that Suda and we used the kelim of the Beit HaMikdash. Now that's a misdemeanor. You know what that means?
Yeah,
Misdemeanor?
small-
It's a small crime, right? It's using a kli that belongs to Beis Hamikdash. It's like, what is it? It's like,
You're fine.
like stealing tissues from shul or something like that. No, you're allowed. I'm telling you, it belongs to Beit Knesset that you can use for your Beit Knesset use. But if you go to shul and take home a pack of tissues for home, you follow? That's
Really?
what?
I thought they were very sacred and you weren't allowed to use them except for.
For building. Yeah, I'm saying if you take them home and use them, that's called be'ilah. It belongs to the shul, right? But it's a misdemeanor. You follow? It's not a.
It's not punishable
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
If you're not prime minister, they're not going to put you in jail for that.
It's not a big deal.
It's like taking from the kiddushes.
Yeah, it's like
People
taking
take from the
it's like
kiddush.
taking champagne bottles and I'm just joking.
It was much worse.
What? Okay, it's but I'm getting it. It's bad for sure. It's bad. I'm saying it's not. I mean, a misdemeanor means it's a small crime. Got idea? As opposed to a felony, which is God giving you the opportunity to return to Israel and playing with world history and making Koresh king and having him change his policy and doing everything he can to bring his people back from exile, right? And not answering. Okay, no, it's on the thematic level, that might not be something I can convict you on in jail, got it? But it's a felony from a prophetic point of view. Based on Yirmiyahu, in Yirmiyahu chapter 29, what's God say? Okay? After the 7 years of Babel over, remember? Then he tells the people, you're not coming back right away. Remember Yirmiyahu sends a letter to the exiles in Babel? That's the last letter they got in Babel from Yirmiyahu. Is it, remember the one we're makbid on to this day? Some people, your friends, are what do you call it? Build houses, settle down, stay there, and have children, and have communities, and pray for the for the queen and everything, because you're not coming back.
King.
The king now, okay. Okay, change my routine. I've been using that line for almost 70 years. So he says when the 7 years are over, then ukratem oti balachtem. Okay, vitbalachtem elai ubikashtem oti misatem kidrum kol levatem. That's what you have highlighted. But I'm going to give you the opportunity, but you have to want to come back, because why bring you back if you're not ready? But God's expecting Am Yisrael to want to come back, and He gives them the historical opportunity. Do we answer the call? Of course, obviously we don't. Not everybody, most people don't. And the question is God upset because Am Yisrael had the opportunity to return and they don't come back? That might be the hidden message behind the book.
But it says Vahashivoti.
What?
But it says
But it
Vahashivoti.
doesn't say how.
Yeah, I'll bring him. He says, I'll bring you back, and that's why I need what they call chapter 4 and then. No, that's what Yishayahu is saying, what they call the second Isaiah, or the Shani Isaiah. Can be the same. We had a class on that one time. But the Navi is telling the people in Bavel, that Koresh guy, God sent him. That Koresh is not, he says he doesn't know what he's doing, but I'm telling you, Koresh is my Mashiach. I sent him for your good. Yishayahu is screaming that. And basically he's telling the people, that's not Koresh, that's me. And that's how I'm bringing you back. The helicopter routine, the freedom. Okay, no. And then Haggai, when like about 20 years later, when they actually build the temple, when they get started, Haggai tells the people the second temple can be greater, Jerusalem can be great again. Shani gives them all these big hopes. And then God says, no. In Shani, Perak Aleph and Bet, in Perak Aleph, he says, God shapti Hashem brachamim b'tiva nebanu Hashem. It's God saying, I'm doing everything for you, I'm getting it ready. Now, that's want to give a quick background, and I have no idea what time it is. I have my watch, not watch, I have my watch here. I have a watch. Okay, good. That's going to give us a background to focus what I want to focus on the meaning of importing based on Zechariah. Again, assuming that the author of the Megillat Esther is assuming his readership knows Zechariah. Now, why should we assume that? Because the last Nebuah in Tanakh is Zechariah Perek Zayin, which has a date stamp. What's a date stamp? Zechariah Perek Zayin, open it up. Zechariah Perek Zayin. Zechariah is right at the end of Shreyasah. Yeah, it's 4 years of Daryabesh. Now, Haggai, all 2 chapters is year 2 of Daryabesh. The first 6 chapters is Zechariah's 2 of Daryabesh, the menorah, all the famous stuff from Zechariah. And at the end of that, God says everything. Actually, look at the last line of Perek Vav, which is right there, right before Perek Zayin. Everyone remembers in Zechariah Perek Vav, Pasuk Yidalad, Roni B'simcha Batzion, Kim Bav Shachanti B'tochech. God's screaming, I want to bring my Shekhinah back. Now, he gives, and there's 7 Nevuot. It's beautiful. The menorah is the middle one. That's a class in the first 6 chapters of Zechariah. But the last line of Zechariah, the last line of Perek Vav, It's Rochokim Yavo Ubanu Beichal Hashem. This is Perek Vav Pasuk Tetvav. People from far away will come and build God's temple. Vidatem Ki Hashem Tzvot Shachanechem. Then you'll see this whole process from God. Vaya Mishmoa Tishmoon B'Kol Hashem Alechem. What's the caveat? If you follow God. It's right out of Shema. Means God's saying it will happen, it can't happen, but it's a two-way street. And it's kind of screaming that redemption is a two-way street. God's promise to bring you back means he'll give you the opportunity to come back, but you have to do it with him. Same thing God told Yeshua, I'm not going to conquer land for you, I'll conquer it with you. Then you learn that with Yeshua. So wherever Am Yisrael took initiative, God helped them. But Yeshua is screaming at the end of the book, what we didn't capture is because don't blame God, blame yourselves. Because you didn't take the opportunity. Now, so Perek Zayin begins in year 4 of Dayavesh. We know from Ezra that they finished construction in year 6. And therefore, this is an Nevuah in the middle of the building process, but it's halfway done pretty much. It's called the Shevet is up, if you know. The Shevet is done. The Kaplan says in 6 months to be ready. And triple that, you'll get 2 years later. Then you tell us Arban, you tell us this and that. No. Luckily, the Persians' administration was a little less bureaucratic, so they got that a little bit quicker.
They have to build it while fighting off the people in the area.
Yeah, local area. Yeah, they had
God wanted us back. Did he make it so hard?
They make it so hard.
Like now.
Yeah, it depends how what we put into it. That's the famous Kuzari. God gives you opportunities, but you have to you get out of what you put into it. Now, we're doing something wrong. What we're doing wrong, you can argue. But what do we need to be doing for God not to have to send us wake-up calls? Because when God sends you a wake-up call, how do you interpret it? So we don't have Navim today, but we have Navim from then who explain to us what are the things that God wants us to do, and that will take us right to Zechariah. Now, because the people the people from Galus are sending a letter in Perek Zayin to Zechariah and the Kohen Beit Mikdash, and they want to know what's going to be. You follow? Now, they've had this custom, we'll see, of fasting on the 4 fast days for the last 70 years, they'll say so. And now they're asking, now the temple's being built, do we continue fasting? Why do they need to know? They're planning summer camp. Do you need instructional swimming during the 9 days, you follow? Or you have to make a siyum every night? Or you can just eat play shakes and not feel guilty? You follow? There's all these real fundamental questions about what to do now the base of make this system. What?
It's very
That don't involve coming.
It's very ironic. People who are in Dallas are asking
About what's going to be, about fasting. And that's the way I teach it for modern day analogy. Now, and that's the question. Where is it in Pasuk Gimel? Tell the Kohanim in Beit Hashem have Keh b'chodesh Chamishiyah. We're going to continue fasting on Tisha B'Av like we've been doing for some 70 years. Now, Zechariah's answer is so Jewish. What's he tell him? He says, God says, don't ask me the Rabbanit, ask me the Oraisos. Meaning, God's saying, I asked you to fast. That's saying in Chumash you have to fast on Tisha B'Av, on the 4 fast days. Right? You decided to fast. If you want to fast, the Rabbanit, you decided. Fasting, that's up to you. What does God want you to do? Yeah. No, more than that. He says, yeah, he's going to tell you, remember why I sent you into exile. Remember the reason why it was destroyed. You don't fast to remember that it was destroyed and blame which guy to blame. No, do I blame Nebuchadnezzar? No, who's the bad guy? Who's that wrong? No, it's who's to blame for destruction. What's Yirmiyahu saying? And Zechariah? You're to blame for that. But don't blame the guy for your destruction. Blame yourselves. If you want to make sure it won't happen again, you want to make sure this is going to be a permanent one, don't ask God, ask yourselves. I gave you the opportunity. It's up to you to make it better. And that's what he tells them in case they forgot. He says, I ask you to fast, I didn't ask you to eat. He goes on. He says as follows. Pasuk Zayin is the best. Okay? If you want to know what God wants you to do, just read Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu. What we call Nevim Achronim, we call Nevim Rishonim. When Yerushalayim was still sitting pretty, and everything was still built up before Ashur came and destroyed. When Yisrael began his prophecy and warning about destruction, I warned you, if you don't fix your society, I have to send someone, I'm going to send Ashur to punish you. And the same thing in the time of Yoshia when Yirmiyahu gave his prophecy, fix your society, otherwise I have to send Bavel to punish you. That's the recurring message of all the Nevim Achronim. And if you're going to remember, just remember why I brought destruction, because you You were serving God the wrong way. You were serving God in the temple, but not acting a way outside the temple that made the sanctified God. Okay. Vayidvar Hashem es Chayei lemor in Pasuk Tet. Kol Mar Hashem. Now we get to our topic. Pasuk Tet. Kol Mar Hashem tzvot lemor. Mishpat emet shvotu. Make sure there's justice done. Make sure your society is full of justice. Okay. V'chesed rachmim asu ish et achiv. Make sure there's kindness among one another. Argue basically maturely. Okay? Don't take advantage of the less fortunate people in society. Don't always think what he's up to. Don't think. Okay. They didn't. Then he goes. They didn't leave. They didn't listen to what I told them, and that's why I scattered them. I scattered them among the nations. Got it? And the land was not desolate. From over Bashav. They had no bank accounts. That's just a joke. Okay. They took a beautiful land and it became desolate. So, and then God tells, now God's saying in Barakhet, I'm zealous now to rebuild Zion. I'm going to return now, dwell in Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim we call it city of truth. On what condition? I'll come to Yerushalayim. God can bring the Shekhinah back to Yerushalayim, but only Am Yisrael can make it a city of truth. And then the famous line of the people, old people, are going to be sitting on park benches and little kids playing. Got it? And think it's possible. Then God brings you back from east and west. I'm sure you've seen this in the world before. Now, skip to Pasuk Yadalit. Terchet Pasuk Yadalit, because we're going to run out of time. Terchet Pasuk Yadalit. Kol Mar Hashem Tzvot. And that should be now on the, we'll be on the source sheet in a minute. Pasuk Yadalit. Kol Mar Hashem Tzvot. Just like I plotted to bring down your destruction, to bring you down, when you didn't listen to me, and I didn't change my mind. I didn't forgive you. Your behavior was so bad in the end of Beit Rishon, I couldn't have Nechama, I couldn't forgive you, and therefore I brought Nebuchadnezzar in to punish you, and I brought Ashur earlier to punish in the earlier time period. And I didn't accept your prayers at that time. Okay. Now I'm plotting to bring you back. God's saying, I'm behind these events in history. Look for God behind the events in history. And just like I went out of my way and played with the superpowers to punish you, now I'm playing with the superpowers to bring you back. Don't be afraid. Okay. Now, Pasuk Yadalit, Pasuk Tetzayin is the key. So what do we need to do? Sit back and believe? A lot more. If you want to know what God wants you to do, now we're on the source sheet also. That we can read from the source sheet because it's highlighted. No more fake news, saying things because it's politically correct to say them or whatever it is, or it's helpful. No, tell the truth and don't bend the truth. You follow? Speak truthfully. Ish et re'ehu. See the phrase ish et re'ehu? Okay. The ish emet mishpat shom shiftu b'sharechem. Vish et rat re'ehu atashu b'vachem. Mishpat shekel tahavu ket kol asher saneti. An unjust society is what God hates. That if there's one thing that God cannot tolerate, is society that's unjust. The people are not kind to one another, always thinking bad things about other people, plotting against other people, just thinking. I don't have to bring examples. And they can be good people, right? You can be, and you can be sure you're righteous, but the way you think about other people, you just see the bad in them. Okay, now, that's what God hates. Okay. Oh, I'm saying I skipped a couple of seconds, didn't I? Oh no, that was the main thing. We're continuing. Now, remember the first question about fasting? It says the 4 fast days. What's he saying? Remember the 4 fast days to remember the destruction. Those are the 4 fast days. Those fast days, he's saying, on what condition? The fast days, if you internalize the message and remember why it was happening, you no longer need to fast on those days. You can rejoice on those days. On what condition? You love emet b'shalom, which is a summary of everything he said. But if you internalize the message of why it was destroyed and you come back and act properly, then there's no reason to fast. You can even celebrate because you finally got it right. But on what condition? You're doing emet b'shalom. Now, and then he says, gets better. Oda sheyavo amim yoshvei arim rabot v'chu yoshvei achat al achat lemor nafcha haloch lachot pnei Hashem v'lakesh shabtzot echad gamani. The time will come. Not only Jews from Galus will come to Israel and return, but non-Jews, foreigners from other nations will come to visit Jerusalem to be inspired. And what will they say? Just like Isaiah chapter 2, pasuk Chaf Aleph. Okay, ubau amim rabim. Great nations, other people come to be inspired by what's happening in Yerushalayim. Now the big line, Chaf Gimel. Kol Hashem tzvot yamim mahema. At that time, asher yachziku asra anashim mikol shonot hagoyim v'yachziku b'chnat ish Yehudi lemor nechai mechem ki shamanu li mimechem. It'll be so crowded in Yerushalayim, but what? That an ish Yehudi will be standing in the Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim with 10 people waiting in line for some guidance. Got it? That's how crowd will be, because it will be so popular and will be so inspirational. People will be waiting in line at the airport, right? To come in and visit and see how we're running our country and how we're living. Now, you can take a wild guess how many times we have the phrase Ish Yehudi in Tanakh. Twice. Now, according to Zechariah, where should Ish Yehudi be? Yeah, and doing what? Making a name for our God, for Hashem. And what do we find to our surprise? Where's an Ish Yehudi? Yeah, and the word Birah is not too many times in Tanakh, but it's only in Divrei Yamim, in the story of David building the Beit HaMikdash and giving the plans for Beit HaMikdash to Shlomo. There are Birah Shechinot. The word Birah, before we get this there, is only used in relation to the Mikdash in Yerushalayim, in Second Temple literature. It's never beforehand. Birah can be like before, but it's the word used to describe the Beit HaMikdash. And now, for some reason, Shushan's replace Yerushalayim. Some people have a really cute minhag that they celebrate Shushan Purim in Yerushalayim. Probably totally by chance. Now, and what's his name? For Marduk's sake, yeah. For Mordechai. Now, no one in Beit Rishon called their son Mordechai. Now, a lot of Babylonian kings are called. There's Adil Morodak, the Morodak Baladan ben Baladan.
Isn't that also the name of a Babylonian god?
It's not only it's the Babylonian god. And if you know, without going all the clearer stuff, it's like he's like in all the creation stories. Marduk is like the big Avodah Zarah god, but he's the god that gives power to governments to squash people, basically. So I want to be Marduk. No, Marduk is the god who gives the power to the Babylonian king to make all decisions, and worshiping Marduk. I mean, worshiping the Babylonian king is like worshiping Marduk. And if you know the Cyrus Declaration, who gets the credit for what enabled the Persians to destroy the Babylonians? Marduk was so upset with his people that he gave Koresh, right, the license to save the Babylonian people from their corrupt kings who were misusing the name of Marduk. And he's going to be a kind king. Just read the Cyrus Declaration. That's his preamble. But he's the God who gives power to kings to squash people. And when the king says it's just without, you can figure out the rest. Now, God's saying that's not Marduk. God's saying I'm the one behind all the defense. That's what he's saying in Yeshayahu. And for some reason, our key character, not only Esther has a meaningful name, Mordechai has a meaningful name. Now, for some reason, when he's introduced, we go back 4 generations, right? Just give his last name. Tell them, why go back 4 generations? Because that's the question. Was Mordechai exiled or was his great-grandfather exiled? Now, if he was exiled, even if I follow the Midrashic interpretation, that it's 7 years after the temple was destroyed, he's still an old man. Okay? But no one in Beit Rishon would call the son Mordechai. There's no reason to. Right? Now, his father is a Jewish name? Yair.
Yes.
Shimi, Kish.
Yeah.
That's all that. He's the first one in the family genealogy to have a Goyish name. Doesn't surprise us, does it? 4th generation assimilation. Yeah, Golos, and you have kids named Christopher and Matthew. Jewish kids named Matthew and Christopher, not Christopher. Yeah, Christopher. Yeah, you have Paul. You have there's a lot of them. And they're from people, right? But that's part of assimilation. And if all names called Mordechai, that's like, what do you call it? That's like strange. Now
It's like Christopher.
yeah. Now I want to get to the So that's number one. So it could be that opening line is up to something, it's alluding to something. But now comes the how we started. The minig of Purim. What's that to do with the Megillah? So the first letter, the fact is the Kimo B'Kibla I told you is a sign. It's not so accepted. The Gemara talks about it also. Esther's writing letters. Remember? Now, the next year they send out another letter. Let's take a look at it. Go back to finding to Megillat Esther. I'm sorry. Actually, go back to the source sheet. We did. Okay. Oh, yeah. Back to the source sheet. We have a couple extra minutes. The strange. What do you call it? The first story. Remember the first story with Makat with Vashti? Is Vashti executed or not? Doesn't say. Yes, but, yeah, he's gotten rid of, but he's not a happy king, is he? Now, can you imagine? Here's the king who thinks he's king of all kings, has this massive party. He calls his wife to show off her beauty to all the nations to make who look good, to make himself look good, and she doesn't want to come. And the king is really angry. Right? Remind you of something? Who's the real king? Who's the real king? Remember, who's the melech all the time? And who's his wife who's calling to show off God's nation? And we don't want to come. That's the question. Is that being alluded to? And because of this, what decree goes out to all the nations after what Esther did? Right? After what Vashti did. What's the conclusion?
And each man should be able to do what he wants.
Everyone belongs in his own home, right? And speak his own language. And what do we find instead? Yishno amachad, mfuzam fad bein amin, betatei hamelech inam shomim. Is Haman's complaint to the king? Is that the Nevuah's complaint to Am Yisrael? Again, if there's a double voice, now Chazal said right away, the Melech, who's the real Melech, and who's the real Melech? Of course, he's Achashverosh, but is he just a tool? Is there a real king behind the events? No, so that's what?
Who was alluding to when Achashverosh was angry that his wife wasn't listening to him, he said
That's right. He says that. Oh, who's no? I'm saying. I'm saying that Am Yisrael is compared, all the being, we're compared to God's wife. Yeah, especially in Yechezkel on the negative way. We're like a cheating wife from God.
You ever give the share to people in Kitzlar?
Yeah, but I toned it down a little bit.
Why?
What?
Why tone it down?
No, then no, I want them to do it.
Oh, okay.
No, to young people, I do. To young people,
Okay.
they've all lived in a little shoot now. Okay. Where are we?
What was it, the letter?
Oh, now the letter. Here comes the letter. Okay, now we go. That's the thing. So now remember, we talked the letter thing. Now, what's we can look at this source E, or we can read it in your Megillah. And we'll read in Perek Tet in Megillat Esther. Megillat Esther, Perek. That's right. It's open here. Perek Tet. Pasuk Chaptet. Perek Tet. Pasuk Chaptet. Yeah, no one's paying attention to Megillah this time because it's like. But to Tov Esther Malka Bat Avicham Mordechai Yudit Kol Tokef Lekemet Tigirat HaPurim Azot HaSheni. We need to send another letter, okay? Why do we need to send another letter? And what's in the letter? So let's take a look. Why do we need to send? Obviously, they're not keeping it, or not keeping it properly. Okay. Vaishlach Sfarim Al Kol Yudim Al Shevasim Mem Dina Malchut Achashverosh Divrei Shalom Ve'emet. Is Divrei Shalom Ve'emet the first line of the letter, or the tochen of the letter, or the content?
sounds like
The first part.
It would sound like if there'd be a continuation, but it's the content of the letter, right? The letter is Divrei Shalom Ve'emet. Without saying what that means. But the letter is not about hello, how you doing? The letter is what's in, the letter is about what's inside. But if the letter is Divrei Shalom Ve'emet, there's only one other time I have Divrei Shalom Ve'emet in Tanakh, and that's Zechariah, right? Now, why he sent Divrei Shalom Ve'emet? Lekayim et Yimei HaPurim Eila B'zmanehem, kasher kiyama lehem Mordechai Yehudi Esther Malka. He's sending a letter about Divrei Shalom Ve'emet to explain the laws of Purim, the way Mordechai and Esther are keeping them, which is to do what? To take a fast day to turn into a holiday, to send matonot levyonim and manot ishlerehu. Now, do we have the theme of ishlerehu in Divrei Shalom Ve'emet? Don't we? And matonot levyonim, we talked about that in the beginning, about helping those in need. So And do we have a fast day turned holiday? Yimei Mishta B'Simcha. And the reason for the fast days was to remember Yerushalayim and why it was destroyed. And now the reason for the holidays to remember. If Esther was instituted to remember Yerushalayim and we had the chance to go back and we didn't go back, then maybe the laws of Purim are there to remind us of Nevuat Zechariah. Because the message is not just the Zionist stuff. You follow? Now we'll get to second generation. It's not just God wants you to come back to Israel. God wants you to come back to Israel and do Divrei Shalom V'Emet, and not Ishet Re'el Chaim B'Lo. Not Dabru Emet Ishet Re'el. The Emet Mishpat Shivtu B'Sharechem. It's not enough to come back to Yerushalayim. That's not the main thing God wants. God wants us back here, but sanctifying God in the society that we build. So answering God's call to return and make Aliyah is only step one. Step two is what we do once there's generation of the first generation and the next generation. How to not just to come back but to build a nation that sanctifies God, which is much harder. And now, what's he saying? That this is the giveaway. The kashir kimon nafsham v'azaram divrei Torah b'zakatam. Okay. Under what authority is Mordechai instituting these laws of Purim, these customs of Purim? Under the same authority that they instituted divrei Tzomot b'zakatam. What are divrei Tzomot b'zakatam? That has to be the 4 fast days. There's no Tanis Esther. You follow? Tanis Esther didn't start yet.
Well, and
Well, there was
Megillah,
the
it's the
3
fast
days.
days.
That's on Passover. That's on Passover, and that's not. And that what.
Megillah's the fast days
That's a
that
fast
Esther
day.
insisted on.
Yeah, but that's not al zaram. That's not al nafsham al zaram. That's not for all future generations. I'm establishing a fast day for all generations to keep, just like we kept fast days for all generations to remember Yerushalayim. But Mordechai is explaining under what authority he's giving kol tokev. He has the authority now to tell the Jews what to do because he's a big shot now in the government, in the person thing. He's sending a letter. Why do you keep, not just that you must keep Purim, but what's the reason for what customs? What he wrote in the first letter. He wrote the second letter to explain the first letter. Now, when I know Divrei Shalom V'Emet from Zechariah, and if I know Zechariah, Divrei Shalom V'Emet is a summary of chapter 8 in Zechariah, right? Chapter 7 and 8. And Divrei Shalom V'Emet are the reasons why fastings become holidays. And the need to do, and Mishachma Ish Re'eu makes sense if Ishet Rat Al Takshuva Vavchem, the Dabru Emet Ishet Re'eu, to be kind to one another. And the way you build kindness is by sharing things. And being and taking care of your name as well. And remembering why Jerusalem was destroyed. So it's remembering God wants you back in Israel, wants you to rebuild the Mikdash, and the Mikdash doing Mishpat and Tzedakah. But when you remember that God once gave you an opportunity, not every generation has the opportunity to return and build up Yerushalayim. So if we're going to remember this for future generations, maybe the next generation is when Ezra comes already. They sort of begin to fulfill it. And he tries to reestablish Mishpat and Tzedakah. But if I'm going to remember God saving us in exile from almost destruction, we have to remember why he's saving us, not that he's saving us, but why he's saving us, and what we need to do to be worthy of another redemption, and what to do once that redemption comes. And that makes it an eternal holiday. That's why Chazal say it's going to be, that's the eternal message behind Purim. And that's why Chazal do everything possible to relate these laws to the land of Israel. Remember? Arim Ukovat Choma from Bimei Yoshua ben Nun. Purim Kippurim. All the allusions to the Beit HaMikdash, all of our customs. The main thing, turning Shushan Purim into Yerushalayim Purim, which is, they can't miss that. That's like, a couple other cities might have Shushan Purim, but no one, yeah. but Shushan Purim is associated nowadays with Yerushalayim, for sure. There might be maybe somewhere it's buried.
What is Esther's halachic authority? So, I mean, she's writing a letter.
I know she's writing from Persian law. She's making a Persian law that Jews in the Persian Empire have to keep laws of Purim. Otherwise, you won't get your discount on your taxes. She's in a position to do that. Now, again, I think this makes, without going to the history part, but it makes sense even if wherever you put Achashverosh on the history chart, it works fine. It's even better if it's after the temple is built. It's much stronger. And then the message of Shari makes even more sense because Shari is right before Achashverosh. It's like, it's in real history, Zechariah is like 30 years before Megillah, 20 years before Megillah Esther. So the temple's rebuilt already.
So how do you read the Midrash or anything? Does Mordechai have a different name like Esther?
Not that I'm aware of them.
So how does it work if, according to the Midrashic approach that, that Daryavish was after?
So with that, again, it's the answer is the Midrashic approach. It's focusing on a different element of the story, but it has to be Midrashic for a good reason, because if I follow that chronology, then Daryavish, when he allows the Jews to build the temple, Esther's son is maybe 4 or 5 years old. When the Jews get the right to build the temple, okay, which means Esther's writing the cover. It just, it could be. But the cute thing is, what are Chazal doing? They're associating Achashverosh's party with Yirmiyahu 70 years. Now, Achashverosh, if you know real history, he cares about Yirmiyahu. Yeah, they're projecting what Am Yisrael should be thinking on Achashverosh. See what they're doing all the time? Yeah. What they're doing all the time is they're projecting what Jews should be thinking on the Persian Empire. But they're alluding all the time and obfuscating the deeper message. I think Chazal do the same thing that Miguel is doing. Yeah.
So Augustus is a Hebrew name, I know.
Yeah.
That. And Esther was apparently the Persian name, but it's weird because it seems like it's purposely.
It's a
for
Jew- yeah,
us.
yeah.
So it's like, was that her given name, Esther, and like just like Mordecai was his
That's
name? or-
It's from Megillah name.
She didn't. So we don't know what her Persian name was, if she had one or.
Maybe we'll uncover Tudatsu one day in the Persian archive after we take over Iran.
And we
So
haven't gotten
basically, the
permission.
name was outdated.
Yeah, the name of Megillah gives her. But the names are significant. You can't. Yeah, no, the names have to be significant because they carry Esther. You can't miss when God's name is hidden. The key can't be called Esther. And Mordechai has to be a meaningful name.
You know, that's Shani.
Yeah.
He chose them. and
Yeah.
put all them
But
in
can
story,
we
when
build
they
the
could have
temple
those names.
today?
We can't. We definitely can't. We're not. What do you call it? I don't think. Anyway, that's ask your local prophet. But if you read the prophets, they're saying is that you're not. All the reasons why it was destroyed is what we know. If we didn't fix our ways and only built it, there'd be tons of reasons why God would destroy it again. Because all the things that causes destruction, just read Yeshayahu, what caused it, read Yirmiyahu, and we're doing the same things today.
No, I think we're trying to have a just society. We're trying to have a lot of tzedakah in this country, a lot of organizations. that
And a lot of
help
There's
people.
a lot of
Look
differences
how
of
many of us
opinion, but
are
I think
here.
We're doing a good job, but there's a lot more. Yeah. What?
I've never said we.
Yeah, but are we united to the point that we can agree on
No.
that
Okay,
the
that's
unity is,
fine.
yeah.
That's
And are we
fine.
speaking divrei shalom that met to one another?
We can't get.
And the leaders of the party that claims to be Tzionut Da'at, I don't think they're talking in a way, even if they're right? The way they're talking and the way they're leading, it's not causing.
Which is part of the.
Yeah, no, they're not increasing unity and showing care for. Now, it could be they're so right, they're social right, everyone else is evil. But if that's true, then for sure we're not ready. If everyone's as evil as they claim they are, the other side, then either way, we're
I don't know if there's ever a time than we were, and I think we're doing pretty well considering history.
yeah, we're doing good, but we could do yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Scheme of things,
What to do, but you know the story of Shani. The overconfidence, the guys who with us, and we're doing great, and we're God's people. That brought down Shani. That brought down the Bechokah revolt. That God's going to come and help us, and we're God's people. Yeah. That basically brought down Rishon by Shani and Bechokah. Okay.